the world premiere of Ira Sachs' new film, Passages. This is Ira's sixth feature film at Sundance. It's his eighth film to play Sundance. I think next year we have to get you on the jury, Ira, to kind of wrap things up, or you need to make an episodic project. This new film is, I think this is such a wonderful, complex relationship drama. This film has such quiet intelligence. It's powerful in its intimacy and leans into the nuances of life, love, and human impulse to search for connection. To introduce you to writer-director Ira Sachs.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here. It's so nice to be in this room with all of you. And to be back in the cinemas and to be back at Sundance. I first came to my Sundance Film Festival when I was 14 years old, so we're talking many decades. I'm so grateful to Sundance. I really believe without Sundance, the film festival, and also please keep in mind Sundance, the Institute, I wouldn't be here as a filmmaker. I want to just shout out to Saïd and Saïd, who's the producer of this film. Listen, this guy's a hero in the cinema that we all care about. There's fewer and fewer people who are willing to take risks and make this kind of movie possible. And I'm just so grateful to Saïd, so thank you. This is the fifth film that I have the great honor and privilege to have created with my co-writer, Mauricio Zacharias. Literally, every frame contains his vision and his insight about people and about movies. So I'm really a lucky guy. And I want to say that I came to the idea of making this film during some of the darkest moments of the pandemic, where I felt intimacy was something that I craved, both with other people next to me. Luckily, my husband was next to me, so he's here also. So that was good. I had some intimacy, but not in cinema the way that I wanted it. And I wanted to make a film that was about how we are with each other in the moment and how we feel second to second as we live our lives. And to do that, I knew I needed to make a film that was centered on the people in the movie. For me, that meant, in this film, Franz, Rogowski, and Whishaw, and Adèle. They are three of the people that I've had. I don't know, they're like friends to me, and I think you will feel that somehow when you've seen the movie, you know them also, because they are so willing to expose what is rare and what is dangerous and what is full of risk about life and about love. And I would just say this film is a love letter to the three of them. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy it.
Please help me welcome back up Ira Sachs.
Thank you. I want to take a moment and bring down some of the wonderful, extraordinary, creative, and special people that I made this film with. So I invite Saïd and Saïd, the producer of the film. Khadija is the guy, the costume designer of the film. Pascal Fontier, the production designer of the film. Mauricio Zacharias, the co-writer of the film. And once I get done, I'm going to introduce the three lead actors of the movie. Okay, I'll start. Adèle Exarchopoulos.
Ben Whishaw, please come down. And Franz Rogowski, thank you.
Congratulations to all of you. This is such a wonderful film. I was reminded what the feeling when I first saw it, just by seeing the last bit of it again, and I'm so honored to be playing it here at Sundance. So thank you, Ira. You were no stranger to Sundance, as we established in the intro. I was very intrigued by you making a very European film with this high-profile European cast. I'm curious where you see this film being in, and what it means at this point in your career.
Well, I guess I've always had a relationship to European cinema that has been sort of essential to me. I learned about films really when I was in my 20s living in Paris. I was there for 3 months and I saw 197 movies, and it changed my life, and I felt a connection to a way of telling stories that was both immensely cinematic but also very personal and very human and very real. Realism was really something that I responded to. When we wrote this film, Paris was a city that I knew intimately, that I have a life in, and I also really wanted to work with these 3 actors, and I felt like we could place the film there and be engaged both with the story but also with the history of cinema that is there. And that became centrally part of our making of the movie. I will say, when you say what is it, for me there was something after the lockdown where I felt very, very free as a filmmaker, and in a way I felt free to go back to some instincts and impulses that were part of my filmmaking process when I was younger, when I was in my 20s and my 30s. So in a lot of ways this was, a film that I made in my 50s, but I connected to certain things from films like The Delta and 40 Shades of Blue that were essentially my cinema. I felt I could do my cinema as I wanted to, and that felt very exciting.
You and Mauricio are just not afraid to wrestle with difficult characters. I'm wondering if you can talk a bit about these 3 characters that you created.
Madame Bovary, c'est moi. I feel very much connected to the character of Tomas, in the sense that I think maybe in all my films I'm grappling with the things that I hope that are the most, maybe there are things that are noble, but also the things that are full of flaws in myself. So I really feel connected to this question of being myself in the world, and my expectations for what I might have, and how they maybe are, the consequences of my expectations on other people seems immense, to be honest. So I'm thinking about that kind of thing. I wrote the part for Franz. I saw him in Michael Haneke's Happy End, and I said, that guy, I gotta work with that guy. So we really collaborated on the character. We also, we talked a lot about Jimmy Cagney, to be honest, as someone who was very good at making things that were maybe ugly somehow beautiful on screen, and I think Franz does that very well. These 2, I know them from the cinema, and I felt very engaged with the humanity and the simplicity and the honesty and the kind of acting which I relate to most deeply. So I will say that there was a film, Visconti's last film is called The Innocent, and if you've seen that film, it's a love triangle in which there's sort of jealousy that keeps spinning out, and that film was very inspiring to Mauricio and I in writing the script. Do you want to add anything about the creed? No? Okay.
Well, I would love to hear from the actors on how you felt about your characters reading the script, and just how you approached them.
Sorry, I'm just recovering from seeing my bum. So enormously exposed. What did I think? I think, it's, I loved the fact that the film relishes this situation, and I loved that it really honoured how kind of, relationships are everything, and they're no small thing, they're the centre of our existence, but I think sometimes and romantic relationships, they're not just fluff, they're kind of really complicated, and I love that it just put the focus completely on that, sorry, it's so not just my bum, but like it's so interesting to watch a film for the first time. I'm still sort of processing what I've seen. Sorry, so I should pass it to someone else.
Reading the script, I have to admit, it felt a lot harder to be Thomas and also to justify his decisions. And I remember all the three of us sometimes wondering in the beginning, like, is that actually possible? Can you love someone that behaves that way? Can you also be someone that behaves that way? And I think seeing the movie, there might be something that we all forgot a little bit in that moment, that all these relationships, they are constantly changing, and therefore the concepts that we create about these characters and the actions that they might have, they might be valid for a second, but then once love is engaged and once relationships are really happening, you can't label them anymore. And I think, especially embedded in your cinematographic language, it's surprisingly pleasant to see this chaos unfolding. And also, I think the drama is somehow embedded in your language, which makes it sometimes very fun, even though it's terrible what they're going through. Yes, so I had questions in the beginning. Can I, how can I defend that character? But I think we had a director that supported us along the way and was always had an open ear for us, even though he also knew what he wanted. But he would listen to us, and we could have a little conversation before shooting.
Okay. She will.
Well, if I may ask you a question, Adèle, I think that this is such an interesting character because within a love triangle where you are the woman, I think the agency your character has and shows is such a crucial part of this film, and is for me something that was very moving about it.
Thank you. I think she represents this kind of, even when you have lucidity about the relationship, you know how much this ego or anything can take place, you really have to live it.
The film is so extraordinary, and the performances are just so vulnerable and intimate and beautiful. And I was so curious, did you all meet before shooting? Did you have time to rehearse? Because building that sort of intimacy that's so immediate is difficult. So I was just wondering, how did you do that?
We definitely did meet beforehand, and the actors met each other. I don't rehearse with my actors before we start shooting, so I work with them individually with the script, and we talk through the script, but I really don't say the lines. Like I really want, shooting is a process of rehearsal. You shoot for a day to shoot a scene, and I'm really interested in what happens when the actors arrive, when they listen and they respond, and they bring themselves, and they memorize the lines, which is really hard. So they bring, and I think what I try to do is create an environment in which everyone sort of is comfortable. It's a very comfortable environment, and they've each spent, I've done this thing for many films where they go on a date for maybe a night without me, and that's somehow, actors are smart. They know how to
they know they need each other, and I think maybe there's a sometimes I think it's like taking ecstasy without the ecstasy. Like they go for it to each other, and I think these three people had an instant response. I felt that they liked each other and they loved working together.
But you sent me and Ben on a date. You don't remember?
I left you, I brought you together and then I walked away. So that was kind of a date. So that's what you, where did you go?
Well, it was a pretty intense experience because we didn't know each other, and we were loaded with all the fears and excitement. And then you introduced us, and you left. I think there was a strategy behind that decision. So we had to come up with a conversation, and then we figured out we actually like each other. So it went very well. But I have to say that it sounds all pretty logical to me when you talk about your work, but I think it also needs someone like you that creates that kind of atmosphere and trust to make it happen. Because this intimacy is not something that I take for granted if you, I don't know, cast the right people. It's really also something that is very much you, that you create spaces for the life to happen. And that felt like a great support and inspiration to us, I think, every day on set.
No. I'm a gay man, and I live in a world full of different people who have all sorts of desires in their life. So I basically look at characters as themselves, as a sort of collection of certain identity is certainly important, but it doesn't make someone who they are. What makes someone who they are is so many other things that go unspoken. I mean, really, when we talk about why this worked, it's because I cast well. I mean, really, that's where it begins. You cast people you're interested in, you're compelled by, you're curious about, and who also have a certain kind of cinematic magnetism, which is a unique thing. And then you go from there. So I guess the world of these characters reflects, to some extent, my world, which seems full of complex people.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we have to wrap up, but I want to give you the last word, Ira.
Thank you. I just want to say to all of these people, this was for me, collaboration and what you do as a director is you basically figure out people who do things that you cannot do, and you give them the space to make that happen. And each of the people on this dais with me brings so much individuality and personality and taste and love to the screen, and I think for that I'm just really very grateful. So thank you all for being here today. And thank you all.
Hey, this is Eric from MyOnCinema.com. If you want to support us, subscribe below. For more reviews, interviews, film festival coverage from Sundance, Cannes, Toronto, you want to check out these guys on this side.